The storm clouds gathered above the city like a warning from fate on the day everything changed, a day that would break egos, reveal truths, and remind everyone watching that real worth is rarely visible on the surface. The glass tower of Alderton Corporation trembled under the wind, but inside it stood a man who had weathered storms much darker than this, yet no one knew. And at that very moment, a careless challenge, thrown like an insult, was about to expose the truth that would flip an entire world upside down. "Fly this helicopter and I'll marry you," CEO Avery Mallinson mocked, pointing at the chopper on the rooftop helipad, laughing at the janitor she believed was beneath her. If you believe kindness and second chances matter in this world, please make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. For years, Ethan Cole had worked quietly in the company as a janitor, pushing his cart through hallways filled with people too busy or too self-important to look him in the eye. He never complained. He never corrected the assumptions people made about him. And those assumptions were plentiful. People believed he was uneducated, poor, directionless, and undeserving of attention. What no one cared to ask was who he really was before arriving with a mop bucket and a faded blue uniform, what storms he had survived, or what secrets he kept folded in the quiet corners of his life. Avery Mallinson, the CEO, was known throughout the company for her brilliance but also for her arrogance. She had risen to power young and fast, earning respect but collecting fear along the way. She believed in perfection, results, and control. In her world, the weak were liabilities, and the humble were suspicious. When she first noticed Ethan sweeping the marble lobby floors, she didn't see a human being, she saw a reflection of everything she tried to escape: struggle, limitation, mediocrity. She carried the silent belief that some people simply belonged at the bottom. The moment that led to the challenge was not dramatic, it was casual cruelty born from stress and ego. A high-profile client was visiting that afternoon, and Avery wanted everything flawless. When she found Ethan cleaning the rooftop glass railings moments before the meeting, she snapped at him for being in the way. He apologized quietly, as he always did, and stepped aside, but a gust of wind caused a small bucket of water to slide toward her expensive shoes. She recoiled, scowled, and mocked him in front of her staff. The air froze as she pointed to the sleek black helicopter, the one her father had taught her to fly but she had never mastered, and said the words she thought would humiliate him: "Fly this helicopter and I'll marry you." The staff laughed. Everyone expected Ethan to lower his head and walk away. But instead, he looked at the helicopter with a strange, distant familiarity, as though gazing at an old friend. Something inside him shifted, a door that had been shut for years creaked open. No one knew Ethan once served in the Air Force. No one knew he had been the youngest combat helicopter pilot in his division. No one knew he had saved lives, earned medals, and carried scars far beneath the surface. And no one knew why he had vanished from that world, leaving behind a brilliant military career to take a quiet custodial job in a corporate tower. That secret, buried deep in his chest, involved pain he rarely allowed himself to remember, a mission gone wrong, a crash that took 3 lives he had been responsible for, and a guilt that never loosened its grip. He had promised himself he would never touch a helicopter again. But humiliation has a way of waking the parts of us we hide. Avery expected fear. She expected excuses. She never expected him to walk toward the helicopter with steady, calm steps. When he placed his hand on the metal frame, the wind seemed to pause, the sky itself holding its breath. The rooftop staff whispered among themselves, unsure of what was happening. Avery's amusement faded into confusion, and then discomfort, as she realized he wasn't backing down. Inside the cockpit, Ethan inhaled deeply. The familiar scent of aviation fuel and metal washed over him like a memory that hurt but healed at the same time. His fingers hovered above the controls, trembling, not out of fear of failure, but out of fear of returning to a world he had run from. Yet something inside him whispered that maybe, just maybe, it was time to stop hiding. Time to reclaim the life he lost. Time to stop letting one tragedy define him. Outside the helicopter, Avery's heartbeat quickened. She didn't like losing control, even emotionally. The idea that this janitor, this man she had looked down on, might actually do what she asked felt impossible. And yet, here he was, proving her wrong simply by sitting in the pilot's seat. Then, with a determination that came from a place deeper than pride, Ethan started the engine. The roar of the blades cut through the tension, slicing the laughter and disbelief around him. People backed away as wind whipped across the rooftop. The helicopter lifted, rising steady and smooth into the storm-darkened sky. Not a wobble, not a hesitation, a perfect ascent. The staff gasped. Avery's breath caught in her throat. In that moment, everything she believed about status, power, and superiority dissolved. The janitor she mocked was soaring above her in a machine she herself wasn't confident enough to fly. The shame hit her hard, not because he embarrassed her publicly, but because she realized she had never once tried to see him as a human being with a story, a past, and a heart. Ethan circled the tower with the grace of someone who had done this 1,000 times. His fear slowly melted under the familiar rhythm of the machine, and for the first time in years, he felt like himself again, a man with purpose, courage, and value. When he landed, the rooftop fell silent. Avery's eyes glistened, not with anger, but with something far more vulnerable, recognition. The kind you feel when you realize you have misjudged someone who never deserved it. She didn't speak immediately. She simply stepped closer, humbled in a way she had never been before. Ethan climbed out, his heart pounding, but his voice steady. He wasn't looking for revenge. He wasn't looking for validation. He had only wanted peace within himself. And strangely enough, Avery's challenge had given him that. The next days unfolded like a slow unraveling of two lives that had collided unexpectedly. Avery sought him out, not with orders but with apologies. She asked about his past, and for the first time in years, he told someone the truth. As he shared the pain of the crash, the guilt, the nights he couldn't sleep, and the reason he had taken a janitor job to stay out of the military spotlight, Avery listened with genuine compassion. Something in her softened. Something in him healed. Slowly, kindness replaced arrogance. Respect replaced superiority. And Avery found herself drawn to Ethan's quiet strength, while he found unexpected comfort in her determination to understand him. When rumors spread about their growing friendship, some mocked Avery for associating with a janitor. Others accused Ethan of seeking advantage. But their bond grew despite the noise. They weren't perfect people, they were broken people learning to trust again. One evening, months after the rooftop challenge, as the city bathed in golden sunset light, Avery invited Ethan to the helipad again. This time, not as a CEO and janitor, but as two people who had learned from each other. The helicopter stood quiet, and the sky was gentle. She looked at him, eyes soft, no arrogance left. And in a voice more fragile than anyone had ever heard from her, she told him she believed in him. Not as a symbol, not as redemption, but as a man she had come to care for deeply. If this story has touched your heart so far, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. It truly helps the channel reach more people who enjoy meaningful stories. As their relationship slowly transformed from apology to understanding, and from understanding to affection, Avery learned humility, and Ethan learned courage. Their worlds blended with time, not because of a challenge, but because of the truths uncovered afterward. Their story reached its most tender point one night when Ethan, standing on the rooftop where everything began, whispered that he didn't need her promise of marriage as a prize. What he wanted, what he truly needed, was simply a chance to live again, not as a ghost of who he had been, but as someone who could still love and be loved. And Avery, with tears softening her eyes, told him she wasn't offering marriage out of humiliation anymore. She was offering it out of choice. Please comment. Years later, people would still talk about the day the CEO mocked the janitor and ended up discovering his truth. A truth that changed her life, softened her heart, and made her realize that status means nothing, but compassion means everything. And as for Ethan, he became a symbol in the company, not of power, but of resilience, forgiveness, and the beauty of second chances. Their story remains a reminder to us all. Never judge someone by what they do, but by who they are when no one is watching. If this story moved your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps more than you know.